Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video we're taking a look at some of the top teams that are floating around at the moment in Pirate Rumble and what teams you want to sort of be building to be able to maximize your wins, maximize your speed, especially when you are in championship trying to get those higher ranks, and what characters work well against other characters and what teams struggle. Now, there isn't a definitive best team in my opinion, but there is a team that is like more reliably better, and that's why I put them at number one. But to start the video, I do want to let you guys know this is just my personal opinion from playing a lot of Pirate Rumble. This is honestly one of my favorite game modes in the entire game. I would say Forest and Garbage Challenge is probably my favorite, and then very closely followed by Pirate Rumble. I have a lot of fun playing Pirate Rumble, and all you do is basically sit there and watch it. So this is just my personal opinion from playing a lot of Rumble. I have ranked fairly high in championship before. I have ranked in the top 100, which has been a lot of fun, and most of the time I sort of rank in the top 2,000, around that sort of area there, depending on how many gems and how the competition's going at the time, I guess is the best way to put it. But with the teams that I'm showing you today, I have tested most of them, but I do have a couple of honorable mentions to start with. So to start the lists, I do have a couple of honorable mentions. First of all, we have the Int Crit team. Now, this particular team here works very, very well, but you do need the new ores, which I don't have. So it's kind of hindered in the sense of I don't really know how amazing this team is, but I do know Ints are very, very good. I do know Halloween Law and Mihawk are very, very good. You have access to Jozu, Dofi, the crit percentage of Dofi special, as well as Shanks. And then obviously Jozu providing, ores, the Pirate Rumble one providing more crit. So if you put that ores in there, you actually have an extra 20 cost to play with, but you do want to make sure that you only have the 6 units for Enel. So honorable mention goes to the Slash Crit team. Next honorable mention will go to the Psy team. Now this team's going to get a lot better when Germa actually gets released. Germa, very, very good. They provide HP and defense, I'm pretty sure, or they lower defense for Int units. So this team is basically built around like combating the Int team. Int sort of just runs riot on Rumble, so when Germa come out, if I do manage to pull them, I will try and do a showcase against the Int team for you guys, but this team will work very, very well. Replaceable units, you can use the rare recruit Rayleigh. He is very, very strong for this particular team if you guys are lacking some of those legends, especially if you're missing your defensive legends, say of Germa itself. If you don't pull Germa, you can always use this guy. He does level 6 Psy teammates HP up, and then he has defense and attack up for Psy teammates as well. He's very, very good there as well. So honorable mention to the Psy team. And the final honorable mention goes to this particular team here. Now you'll see this particular team pop up again in the tier list, but the main reason I have it here is because look at that bench. You can use a full 300 cost with this particular team. Colgara Nolan's amazing for the Slash team. PvP White is just an absolute monster by himself. And then you've got the healing from Otama and the HP cutting potential from Neko, who's actually boosting like only Colgara Nolan on this team, but can still get a very good buff at the end as well. So honorable mention goes to this team as well. But like I said, you will see that pop up once again. Sorry about that. Just to quickly put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So for rank number 5. Rank number 5 goes to the Rainbow team. Now, this team is probably the most flexible team, as its sort of array of like substitute units are very, very strong. So the core of this is your defense being V2 Rayleigh 6+. He is very, very good. HP up level 5. And then when you drop below 50%, 60% HP, he does level 5 up guard, 5 up defense. His special does defense. He does fixed damage. He is on a very high cooldown though, but the idea of him here is that you just want to get hit. Next we have Roger. Roger's an absolute god. I'm pretty sure he's pretty much on like every single one of these teams besides the Int teams, I think. You guys know how good he is. PvP Whitebeard's here just for a little bit extra oomph, dropping defense, doing a little bit more damage for you guys too, as he's technically like on a Rainbow. He boosts quick, which is really, really good for Testro. Testro is here to give you special cooldown, CT speed up and stuff like that as well, so you can pop your specials off. We have Luffy Sanji here as our main damage dealer. The downside I found to Luffy Sanji is they just can't compete with the faster teams, man. 32 cooldown is pretty good for what they can do, but at the end of the day, what they can do is hit 2 units very, very hard. Now, if they hit 2 units that have a lot of defense or a lot of HP, or they aren't the right units that you want to kill, it can go downhill. Finally, we've got Shanks in the back. If you drop below 70 seconds and you're getting outsped, say Rayleigh gets one shot, Shanks can come in and be a defensive unit that way. So it does operate very, very well. The problem I find with it is it's very RNG based, especially with Rayleigh having to get hit to get your defense. PvP Whitebeard obviously lowering the defense of particular units. Same with Roger as well. And then obviously keeping Tessera above that HP pool so you can get the cooldown as well, or the defense I think it is. He gets defense up level 1 if you're above 60%. So that's where RNG comes into play. It sits at number 5, but it is very flexible in the way that you can honestly just chuck on a bunch of other units. Like Frankie would work very, very well. You could use Ace. You could even throw on something like Kizaru as well, because there's a lot of free spirits and shooters and slashers just for his own personal use. You could use V3 Law to boost Roger. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this team, and that's why it sort of makes the list. But unfortunately, like I said, it just doesn't compete with some of these other teams. The next team is the OG Int team. This team's still holding its own in the top 5. Very, very strong. Combination of Katakuri, Blackbeard. Katakuri's out here nerfing Psy units. Gives them defense down, which is great when you're versing Roger and Odin teams, especially one of the teams that you'll see coming up. Blackbeard is our main damage dealer. He's throwing out, he gives a HP level 5, cooldown level 5, and then he's just throwing out a butt ton of damage depending on how many times he uses special. And he's on a very low cooldown as well, which is great. The core of this team is built around Dofi. He's our defensive unit. Without Dofi, these teams just don't work. This guy here is, in my opinion, the best Rumble unit in the entire game. Like no question about it. Enel's great. He's got amazing passive as long as you stick below the 6 units, which is very easy to do with this team. And finally, we've got Jozu on this team. He gives speed up. He gives guard up. He gives defense up. He does butt tons of damage, does fixed damage to 2200. He's a very, very good unit for the Int team. And then finally, your bench, you could use something like Int Shanks, like V2 Shanks. You could use any of the Halloween Slashers would work. I've got Pudding here as she gives cooldown. She works very, very well with this team as she is a driven unit oh no, she's not. She's a cerebral. Okay, never mind. I thought she was a driven, but she's not. But it's not the end of the day, as she is a shooter. So she does mesh well with, and also OG Int still holding its own fairly well in the top 5. It's still a very good team, but the downside to it is it's a full Int team, so finding scrolls can be very, very tricky. The next team is another Int team. So this is like version 1 Int, where this is like version 2 Int. And then obviously like version 3 Int, you've got the crit slashes. So it's a lot of stuff you can do with Int. But this particular team, in my opinion, is a little bit better than the one that you just saw. So this team is very flexible in the way that you can do stuff like this. Your core here is obviously Dofi, being the HP booster for slashes and driven, as well as giving defense up. And then he's special, doing a butt ton of damage, giving his crit percent up. Does defense up level 5 for slashes for 19 seconds, and he's on a fairly low cooldown, so he can do a lot of damage, especially when you pair him up with these 2 units here. So this unit here, Halloween Law, is one of the best Rumble units in the game as well, especially when you partner him up with someone like Dofi. His Rumble ability is level 8 speed to Int units, and then all enemies defense down level 1. The defensive scaling in this game is a lot more prevalent than the attack scaling. So losing just 1 defense compared to losing 1 attack is a massive, absolutely massive. You lose 1 attack, it's not really that big of a deal. You lose 1 defense, and you are getting hit so much harder. His special though is what makes this guy so amazing. He targets all enemies for 100% chance to special blind for 8 seconds, and then does medium range horizontal for attack by 1.5 on a 25 turn cooldown. This guy just shuts down Odin basically. He completely shuts Odin down. If you get this guy's special off before Odin literally can't do anything. And now, I was having trouble with him throughout the last PvP, sort of Rumble era, with the Mihawk Perona one. No, the Moria Perona one. Mainly because we had extra speed. Now, the downside to extra speed with this guy is you don't pop off the special straight away. And I'll show you guys what I mean, as I'm going to showcase that last team in a Rumble match, just to show you guys what's going on. Next, we've got him partnered up with his best friend here, which is Halloween Shanks. Halloween Shanks is just as good as V4 Law, in my opinion, especially when you partner them up together, as he does basically the same thing, but he does a large range for 2 times his attack. He targets 4 enemies for a 70% chance to action bind. Now, if you guys are aware of what the action bind mechanic is, it's very similar to what V1 Kuzan can do, where it's like he locks them, he binds them. Once they're binded, they physically cannot do anything for 8 seconds, and there's only a very small handful of characters that can get around that, namely Roger. But when you pop off, he's on the 30-second cooldown. When you pop off Law and then you pop this guy off and you just shut down all their specials, you blind all of their abilities, they literally cannot do anything, and then they're just stuck staring at the wall. Katakuri on this team is completely replaceable. He's here to shut down something like Roger and Law and stuff, as he's an Int nerfer, a Psy nerfer. He's just going to make it very hard for them to get their specials. Plus, he shuts down Free Spirit, Cerebral, and Powerhouses, which are very, very prevalent in the game as well. But like you can see here, you can put Jozo up here for extra defense. You could Enel's pretty much a must on this team, as he is very, very good with his passive just being absolutely OP as. So that's the version 1 int team. I do think it's the best int team in the game, but from what you're about to see moving forward, I do think it does get a little bit outclassed, just a little bit from the next team you see. But this team, I haven't really played around with it too much, and it possibly could beat the next team that you guys see on the list. I might have them sort of equal seconds, to be honest. So the next team is the Rodent Slasher team. Now, this particular variation of the team, in my opinion, works the best with Law and Kizaru, but as you saw in the honorable mentions, you can actually use it where you have Kolgara, you take Law out, use PvP Whitebeard, and then you can use those other Rumble units. If you have something like Kaku as well, putting Kaku on that team instead of Neko works very, very well. But all these guys mesh amazingly well. You've got Roger doing his thing, giving your full team defense up level 3, and then he gives attack up level 5, speed up level 5, and then special cooldown, speed up level 6 in the last 40 seconds of the fight. Very rare you get to the last 40 seconds of the fight with this particular team, to be honest. But once you get there and you haven't popped your specials off, oh man, you're throwing them out then, I tell you what. Next, you've got Law. Law's here to boost Psy. He does cooldown level 6. First 40 seconds of the battle, he nerfs Driven and Powerhouse units. He has special cooldown, guard percent down, level 6, speed down. He just nerfs Driven and Powerhouse, which is great if you're coming up against the int team. This team just devours the int team, like devours it. That's the thing. But against the V1 int team, I'm not 100% sure how it goes, as most of those units actually aren't Driven and Powerhouse. Katakuri is, Dofi is, and Enel is, but because Law and Mihawk isn't or aren't, it can work very, very well. And that's why I think it's probably got a little bit of an edge on it, as this team is very, very quick. But I do want to do some matchups with it just to get a better idea. And at the moment, I'd probably say they're very on par as equal second. Next, we've got the core again of Dofi. I'm not going to talk about him. He's amazing. You guys know how amazing he is. Next, we have Kizaru. I haven't actually maxed my Kizaru. I need to do that. So, Kizaru targets 4 enemies for 1 times his attack, and then targets Slasher and Shooters, attack up level 7, for 24 seconds on a 15-turn cooldown. With this team popping off specials, this is insane. You can get so much attack up with this particular team that your Odin especially is going to be absolutely dominating. Now, you guys know how good Roger and Odin is. When Roger comes in on his 30-second cooldown, obviously he gets a faster cooldown as a Psy unit with the Law buff, but he comes in, he does 2,000 fixed damage to all enemies, and then he gets attack down level 7, defense down level 5, speed down level 10 for a medium frontal range. If he pops that off on units that then are going to get hit by Odin, Odin just absolutely wipes them. He's an incredible stage wiper. He gives cooldown level 5, attack up level 5 to your slashes, and then as a special he does 1500 damage to all enemies, and then targets the same large horizontal range for 2 times his attack, and then gives level 7 attack up to slashes as well. So as you can see, this team is just built around speed, it's built around attack, but without the core of Dofi, it can just get wiped off the park. So you do really need Dofi here. And if you don't have Dofi, you could replace him with someone like, there is a rare recruit Dogstorm that I usually tell people that is a very, very good replacement. This guy here, as at max level, he does HP level 5, guard level percent up level 5, and then on his special on a 25-second cooldown, very similar to Dofi, he's defense up as well, which is very, very good for slashes and cerebral. So he's a budget sort of replacement for you guys. And on the bench here, we have Kolgara and Nolan, but you can use something like basically any good slasher unit that's very low cost. Someone like, I think you can use the Clash Mihawk would work very, very well for his HP cutting abilities. And that sort of just does the job very, very well as well. But this team sitting at number 2nd, probably on par with this particular team, to be honest. They probably hold equal second. It just depends on what rules are around as well and how the RNG falls in your favor. But I do like using Shanks and Law more than I do like using this team. But the big thing about this team is it does have Roger and Odin. So Roger and Odin may sort of cuck these guys, especially if Odin does go off before the Law. If Odin goes off before Law, you can normally win. But if Law goes off before Odin, this team will normally win. So that's where they're kind of on equal second. But let's move into the final team now, holding the number 1 spot in my opinion. But as I mentioned at the start, each team can beat each team with a little bit of RNG, with a little bit of help from the rules. Obviously, with your characters being more buffed than the other guys, there are other factors that make these sort of teams work a little bit nicer. But the most reliable team for me that's had the most success against these high-level teams is this team right here. I like to call them the Neo Slashers or the Hybrid Slashers, utilizing both the Roger and Odin combo, still keeping that core of Dofi, and then using Halloween Shanks and Halloween Law on the same team. Now, your bench is replaceable. You can put on, like, PvP Whitebeard, who's great. I've got Colgar and Nolan here because, like, they are a slasher unit, and then, like, this whole team boosts slashes besides Halloween Law and Halloween Shanks. Now, the way this team works, basically, is with Dofi as your core, being your HP and your defense booster, you can actually tank a few shots. Then, ideally, with Law giving such high speed up and Shanks giving such high attack up to int units, attack up level 8, speed up level 8, and then for the first 40 seconds of the battle, Shanks is lowering the attack of Psy units as well as giving them miss percent chance level 3. So between Shanks and Law popping off around, like, they're very similar to Roger and Odin, right? So the idea of the way this team works is you normally get Law to pop off first. Law locks all their specials. Shanks comes in, action blinds him. Obviously, the only character that can avoid that is someone like Roger. He can avoid both of them. Odin can't avoid the special blind, but he can avoid the blind, like the action blind. Then you come in, you get Dofi, gives you a little bit more defense, and then because Roger and Odin aren't getting that huge int buff that Law and Shanks are providing, you want to have them in the far sockets, so then that way they sit at the back. Then Roger can come in on the 30-second cooldown, do his big 2,000 damage to whatever's left, lower the defense, and then Odin just cleans up the scraps. It's incredibly strong what it can do. You barely ever see the light going past the 70-second mark, and Colgar and Nolan are just in there to clean up the scraps at the end. So with this particular team that I do believe is number 1, we are going to go into a match here. Now, I'm actually going to take on another Halloween Law and see how we go. And if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. This is what I mean by if teams pop off first, they can usually get a little bit ahead of you. Now, this guy is using some crit with Shanks, and then he's got character as well. Now, because we're so low down in the like in the actual ranking at the moment, I don't like to use gems during the regular blocks. This may just be an absolute whitewash for us, but I just really want to show off how how Law works with his special, as our Law is going to pop off first. Lovely. All right, so Dofi actually popped off first, which is a little bit rare, to be honest. He normally goes after the other int units, but as you'll see here, Law's going to be locked. We're going to do a butt ton of damage, as you saw there. His Law can't physically use his special, which would technically nerf me. Wow, okay, Roger's going in. Interesting. The whole order's a bit jumbled here, but that's what I mean by RNG, you know? And then Shanks just cleans up the rest. There you go. So at the 65-second mark, there was Roger and Odin. We did have Carrot, and we did have Halloween Law there. So this team does a lot of work very, very well. But hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to go down there and belt that like button. And if you want to stay up to date with more OPTC content I post, hit that big red subscribe button too. But guys, most importantly, wherever you are in this beautiful world, make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Lights!